Hello, everyone. This is Brother Benson Media. Today is a Wednesday, and we are very lucky to have my sister again. How are you doing, my sister?
Hi, I'm doing excellent in this part of the Sahara.
Okay, can you
Glad to see
maybe
you.
say hi to our viewers?
Hi, viewers. How are you doing today? I hope you've been keeping well from where I'm at. It's extremely hot, so I hope you've been hydrating, staying safe, and finding ways to make yourself happy about life.
Okay, thank you so much. We are also managing, and it is nice to have you on the show again. It is long since we had one. And today we
Okay.
want to discuss something that touching on our society and is something that we rarely talked about. We rarely don't have conversation about. And if so, maybe if something happens, and this
Yeah.
is the issue of abortion. So, and we want to look at the wide-ranging effects, especially of abortion on an individual, and maybe to some extension to the society. So, maybe your take on the topic.
Well, I think it's about time. It's not even about time. We are late.
Mhm.
We are late to this kind of conversation because the third largest cause of maternal death where I'm at is actually abortion, unsafe, not abortion, but unsafe abortion.
Mhm.
And there are various factors contributing to that. We have legal issues, we have legal reasons. So, because of the stand that the Kenyan government has on abortion, which is abortion is illegal except, abortion should not be procured except, at the advice
Mhm.
of a medical practitioner.
Mhm.
So you find that sometimes when, young ladies or older ladies or all sorts of women want to procure abortion as a service,
Mhm.
they tend to settle on quacks because they know that they might not go to a medical facility and access that service. We also have social issues. We have gaps in terms of sexual education, sexual reproductive health education and information. So many young people or even older people do not have access to the right sexual reproductive health information in terms of contraception, in terms of, just being aware that sex can lead to pregnancy. And sex does not only serve the purpose of entertainment, but it also serves the purpose of reproduction,
Mhm.
especially now for the younger cohort of women. And so sometimes when we, have sex in an unprotected way, then now pregnancy shows up and we realize, oops, I'm
Mhm.
not ready, I'm not ready. And then, abortion happens in unsafe places. We also have, mental issues, psychological issues, whereby the body is just not able to contain pregnancy. And so, the system just aborts, just, gives away pregnancies. And sometimes if it's not handled properly, it might lead to death or just excessive bleeding or complications, deformations. So there are various aspects to this that call for us as members of the community to bring our expertise in different ways. Legal expertise, social expertise, mental, biological, in order for us to address this, menace that we, if not careful, are going to continue to see at an escalated level.
Okay, let me come to the especially the younger ones, especially the young
Yeah.
ladies who sometimes they might be engaging in sex and without uh, protection, and in the event they get pregnant, then
Yeah.
due to that societal kind of like stigma, yeah, they end
Mhm.
up outsourcing, or they end up seeking advice in the very wrong places, whereby they are advised to terminate those pregnancies even when like they are like 1 month, and they end up maybe losing their life, like a story that you told on your social platform. What role should a society play in such like cases?
Is we have to accept one of the things we struggle with, especially as an African society, is accepting that our younger generation are sexually active. Just admitting that our young girls and young boys, or young girls and older men, are sexually engaging. So because we are in denial, we don't want to hear or see anything in that regard. So we don't want to address it. We leave it out there for it to handle itself, and it doesn't handle itself. Again, what results is death or just complications. So one thing we need to look face to face is that our young people, because you've asked about young people, our young people are actually sexually active. So is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? And number two, what are we doing about it? Is that an outcome that we are proud of? Is that an outcome that we want to continue seeing? What can we do about it? So it's a conversation that we must have, especially because we are parents, we are brothers, sisters, we are colleagues, we are members of the society. This thing either affects you or infects you. You cannot escape. So it might not happen in your household, but it can happen to your children's friend, and then it might replicate, or it can happen to your neighbor, and then you are needed to contribute. So this thing might affect you, or most likely affect you in one way or another. So we cannot continue to say, oh, that's not my problem, my daughters are not like that, my sons are not like that. It might not be your daughter or your son, but it could be you. Because we even have cases of abortion, unsafe abortion, in marriages. The assumption has always been that it's just, oh, younger people, because they're not ready to be pregnant, because they're not ready to raise kids, to have a family, blah, 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 so they abort. Even women in marriage, there are even men in marriage who advise their wives, legally married wives, to procure abortion. Sometimes, maybe you have a little baby, maybe it's a toddler, or you just have a baby 6 months old, and then oops, you realize, oh my God, we are pregnant. Or even 4 months old, you realize, oh my God, we are pregnant. We actually have heard of a case like that in a facility that we work with closely, where a husband took his wife, who had a 4-month-old baby and was pregnant, to procure an abortion. And he said, we cannot afford another baby. So it's an assumption that it's only younger people, but younger people, they have a challenge with the access to adequate sexual reproductive health information. Number two, there is no proper support system. As family, as friends, all we do is say sex is bad, or don't play with boys. But are we going deeper to explain, what about sex is bad? Because the truth is, sex is not bad. And some of these people begin to try out sex and they realize, oops, this thing is actually fun. So we need to give accurate information, and then not just say don't allow boys to touch you. Sometimes you go to the hospital and a male doctor will have to touch you. So you have to give proper information. And so there's a lack of adequate and accurate information. Then there's just the sex being taboo. It's just an untouchable subject in homes, at dinner tables, in school. So there's this ball that is being passed around. So parents hope that the teachers will do it. Teachers hope that the parents will do it. And then the whole family hopes that the clergy will do it. Now, some of the clergy are actually perpetrators of sexual abuse. So who is going to actually now stop and say, hey, let's handle this?
Yeah, that's and like even you talked about even people in marriages, and some of them are intellectuals, but you find like instead of even seeking the right way by even the advice of a practitioner who is a professional in that field, they don't go through that way. They tend to go the traditional way, and sometimes in the event they end up even losing the mother together with the child, and like a father now you will be left with to take care of a family, such like parents, or such like a group of population. What should be how can we advise them and to let them know like the way you are taking maybe the traditional way is not the right way?
So that route right there is due to mainly stigma. So the reason why a professional who knows, what to do will not do the right thing is because of stigma. The fear of people knowing that we are not ready for this pregnancy, and the fear of people knowing that we actually want to procure an abortion, which is highly illegal, morally illegal, spiritually illegal. So there's stigma around abortion. That's just, the truth. And so people tend to hide it as much as possible. That's why they run to, quacks and whatnot. Because if they go to a professional doctor, they know that you have to actually walk into a facility. There's likelihood of people seeing you, people that especially being a professional, being probably a respected member of society. Other members of society will be there and will see you. So there's a lot of stigma around that. There's a lot of stigma around that's pushing people to hide procuring of abortion.
Like because I've been following you on the work that you're doing with the young ladies, especially encouraging them and motivating them during
Yeah.
your during your speeches or during your conversation with them. Do you bring these issues, and how do they respond to such like conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one thing I know from my escapades in the community, engaging especially on life skills with adolescents and young people, is that there's a craving for the right, accurate, and um, uh, just accurate and truthful information around sexual reproductive health and rights.
Mhm.
So whenever I introduce, I have no chills, really, I have no boundaries, but what I focus on is age appropriate information. So
Mm.
sometimes I work with, under 19, how I talk to them is different from how I talk to above 24 or above 20. So I have to make it age appropriate, because also sometimes I go into institutions. So like I go into a school, but you see those in such guarded institutions, there are parameters, there's
Yep.
how to work with, that group of people. So give them age appropriate information, but in an actual accurate manner, where we are not holding back anything, we're not hiding information. Because let me tell you, one thing is, don't underestimate the kind of information these young people have. These guys are informed. We live in the era of information. So
Mm,
assuming that they don't know yet, we are kind of kama anajua,
mm,
is how we look at people and we judge them. We judge their HIV status, visually. We're like, we are kind of na HIV. We are
mhm,
kind of na nini herpes. You
mm,
cannot judge with your eyes. So we look
mm,
at our young people and we say, oh, this one is too innocent. She does not look like she even knows. Yeah, while she's practicing. This
mhm,
one is too, he does not look like he knows while he is practicing. So just knowing that, they're aware to some extent. And so I invite them into telling me what
mhm,
they already know. And then
mm,
from there, I'm able to pick loopholes and then begin to just give the right information and just talk about things that I know they don't talk about at home. Like, name your body parts. Can you
mm,
point where your breast is? Can you point where your penis is? And they're
mm,
shy. They're like, oh my
eh,
God. Can you point where your vagina is? They're like,
mm,
oh my
mm,
God.
mm,
There's nothing shameful about that.
mm,
We talk about the the infections around the vagina. We talk
mm,
about infections around the penis. We talk about bodily changes, how
mm,
you feel a certain desire towards the opposite sex. And I ask them, how do you feel about girls and boys, and how do you generally feel ever since you joined pop, you got into puberty?
mm,
Tell me about how you think about girls and boys, and what do you feel, how do you feel inside of you. And they just express themselves, and you find they're very innocent, but they just needing to learn, and nobody's coming out there to really just give them that information, because we, as families, as parents, you have this barrier of respect with your kids. As teachers, you have this barrier of respect. As clergy, you have this,
mm.
my friends.
Because like this needs to be a support. It's kind of like it should be like a software or like a support system that maybe you as somebody who is trying to motivate them or talk to them about it, if you're doing it and the parents are not taking that initiative to be that kind of like that free environment for them, they are not going to air their views, or they might not share what they're experiencing with their parents. Do you find sometimes even to engage the parents, so that you would tell them like, okay, this is the kind of conversation that we are having, and we should not shy away from tackling this kind of conversation, and what is their response?
Yeah, that's very good. That's very important. So my answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that a few times when I'm able to come in contact with parents, I try my best to do that. And no is because there are challenges even in the community now, because of our economic, just times we're living in. Times are hard economically. So you
Mhm.
find that for parents to even spare time, the children is easy because I can find them in institutions like learning institutions. I can find them, wherever. But now, where young people hang out, but now with parents, you can only find them either at work, in
Mhm.
markets, at the workplaces, or at home. So at home, you might have to go door to door. So you might not like bring together a large group at the same time. So if
Mhm.
you want to bring together a large group at the same time, you have to be deliberate to reach out to them, to mobilize them. When you do that, parents will ask for, after I come there, what are you giving me? The information they're not counting. You have to, what they mean is, Gonya.
Go.
They don't see the value of. I'm not saying all, but in the communities that I work in,
Uh,
especially the peri-urban slum communities, there's always that question of, so as we come together as parents to learn, what else are we taking home? They mean in terms of monetary value, and so sometimes that is burdensome. So I find it easy for me to just reach to the kids because it's easier. They're already in organized structures at school, at church, wherever. Most, yeah. But that's a very important question, and we need to find ways. Probably we
mhm.
can collaborate maybe with other individuals or other like-minded organizations to see how can we honestly reach to the parents.
Uh, yeah, even like maybe even the county government, because as a county government, those are kind of the issues that you should um addressed in your relevant department, especially when you come to the our settlement areas. Let's say, for example, Kisumu, we have places like Nyalenda, Obunga, Manyata, Kondele. We have very young youths that are very active,
Yeah.
and they are yearning for these messages. And like, I think they can organize for such like um, events. But ever since you've been in Kisumu, have you ever had or any government county having such like forums for the young ladies or the young men about the reproductive health?
Yeah, yeah. County governments have um, some of these activities, and mostly they are in collaboration with non-state organizations, because
Okay.
now non-state organizations provide like the monetary support. But county governments really, they might have budgets, but they don't they don't often sponsor like materially these activities, but they work in collaboration with non-state organizations that actually do
Mhm.
the uh, facilitation in terms of ensuring their material support.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. You talk of mental health, and mental health is one of the areas that I think like should be looked into, because like we usually give it a gray kind of like not so much into it, because like we might say somebody is going through something. Okay, that is a usual thing, but like at the end of the day, the state of the mind will determine what you are doing. So with your organization, are there any, or with the work that you're doing, are there any partners that you have actually that tackles the mental health, especially like when it comes to depression? Because let's say for a young girl, if a young girl who still doesn't understand a biological body reaction, or like you know and it happens that you are pregnant, what will happen, it will come as a shock to her. First of all, coming out in the public will be very difficult. So such like organization whereby if it happens to them, can get them and have a conversation with them so that they can feel free.
Yeah, so I have found more of individuals than organizations.
Yeah.
So the individual counselors that
Yeah.
actually come out to say, hey, can I work with boys, who are going through mental instability or experiencing, incidences of depression? Can I work with young women? So mostly it's counselors on an individual level, but I have not found yet an organization that is just willing to, help to share in that burden.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now, um, our spiritual leaders, we usually count them as the core of our society, whereby we feel like we should go and be relieved when we are in dire problem. But when you look
Yeah.
at uh our spiritual, like the spiritual, most of our spiritual places that we go,
Yeah.
they they don't they're not like the place that you should go, because like when we go with the problem, um
Yeah.
there you are going to get more problem. And what should we do? What should we do?
You're going to get more. What do you mean? Elaborate. You're going to get more.
Okay,
What do you mean?
let's say, for example, some a lady goes to the church and maybe talk to the
Yeah.
pastor about it and what maybe is happening. Then instead of pastor maybe offering a solution to that, then
Yeah.
pastor plays into it. The next thing you know, this lady is pregnant, and a still young lady who is pregnant with a pastor who was supposed to give a good guiding, because those are the cases that we are experiencing, you know. And once they
Yeah.
do that, that's the end of life for that lady. So
Yeah.
what should they do if such like cases are befalling them?
Well, that's unfortunate. That's
Yeah.
unfortunate. Yeah, indeed, we have heard of cases where the protector is
Mhm,
actually the predator.
mhm,
They have, and it's not just pastors, it is also fathers,
mhm,
it is also uncles, it is also mothers, yeah, it is also neighbors. So a perpetrator is a perpetrator, an abuser is an abuser, regardless of what apron they are wearing. So it could just be a sexual predator who's hiding in the church. It could be a sexual predator who's someone's father.
uh,
So it's an individual problem. So it's not an it's not the church. You can't say the
mhm,
church. It's not an institutional problem. It's an individual problem.
mhm. So
I
how
would
how
say.
how can we create awareness in society such that when we see something like of the sort, that we see somebody, um the gray, like a red flag, that okay, this lady, she might be pregnant. How can the society embrace such that to assist her before they think of going for an alternative without their parents knowing or without the society knowing?
You mean how can us as society support the pregnancy so that they're not thinking about abortion?
Yeah, let's say, for example, and
Yeah.
I'm bringing it to your case because when the case that you talked about, because like this is somewhere that you felt for the lady, based to the fact
Yeah.
that she was being raised by a single father who is working very hard, and you played a part to see that this lady could have a future.
Yeah.
But in the process, we cannot blame the lady, because the way you said earlier, they know more than what we think. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Right.
you find that they go for a quick alternative. They feel like, okay, we want to do it before everybody realizes, but in the event, they end up losing their life. So as a society, if somebody like this lady approach you with such a problem, what can you do instead of suggesting the route that should can cause death,
Yeah.
but you come up
Yeah.
with a positive way?
Well, speaking for myself, normally I say I am sorry, but if especially when it was not like a rape case, it was not out of like a rape case or whatever.
Mm,
Of course, those who are under the age of 18, you cannot even say they consented because the law of Kenya, states that they don't know what they're doing.
mm,
But I still, though, at least there was some level of, knowingly taking part, participating in this, sexual activity. So I would say, if you lay your bed, you have to lie on it. So
mhm,
what I would say is you're going to have that baby
mhm,
because that is, I mean, yeah, you're going to have that baby because if I contribute in suggesting abortion and then you go ahead and procure an unsafe abortion, then your blood is on me. I don't want that. I don't want. So I would just say, to be very honest, people have a future
mm.
beyond being early mothers.
Yeah,
There's still a future for you. You can still go back to school. Of course, you're going to have to take maternity leave.
actually. Mhm,
Then you resume school. You can still, perform exceptionally well.
mhm,
You still have room to become everything that God created you to be. So this is just a setback. This is not, a death sentence. And
mhm,
then, just work around how can we bring their parents, guardians, caregivers on board to, think the same way.
mhm.
And I'm not forcing down my opinion on anybody. if
Yeah.
they if they opt for something else, I back off, and I still support them in whatever outcome.
But sometimes they can opt for the solution that is going to terminate the life of a human being, which is not good. Because as you said earlier, being an early mother does not mean that is the end of the world. yeah, you will just take a maternity leave, then pick up the pieces and start to move again. So what can we do to these individuals who give like a wrong suggestion? Should the law take its course, or we can just say, okay, is his decision, or we just leave them?
Yeah, like the law of Kenya says that abortion is illegal except, with the advice of a medical practitioner. So
Mhm.
if that was not a medical practitioner, they will be sued.
Who is going to
Whoever
sue
gets
them?
that. Um, Collectively, we can take that if we know the person, like we knew the person,
Mhm.
and like the father who's a single father in this case, like the particular story I shared, the father is actually taking this matter. It's in court.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, oh,
yeah.
okay. That's okay, because some of this it is something that that we should have a discussion over, especially for the quack, and
Mhm.
also letting the society know the way we say it, like having early pregnancy or being in a motherhood at an early age. That one
It's not
does
the
not
end of
mean,
the world.
yeah. So and such like awareness should be talked about, but like we shy as a society,
Yeah.
and that makes us to lose majority of young people, especially, and even those who are in marriage. And maybe when we talk about the physical health effect, yeah, what are the long terms when you do it at the quack level? Yeah.
Yeah, number one is death.
Mm,
Number one is death. Hemorrhage normally is just leading to death.
mm,
Number two, you may suffer deformation, because they actually tamper with your reproductive system. And number three is they might actually rupture your womb, so you might never have be able to carry a pregnancy again,
mm,
or they can completely just rupture means just you know and also the trauma, the psychological effect is that whole horrendous experience, you might take time before you actually now start sleeping
mm.
at night, because it is actually horrifying. And sometimes those quack doctors are not gentle at all. They will mishandle a patient, they will rough you up, they will tell you how, please stop crying. I mean, did I send you to have sex? So it's like, it's really indignifying.
Mhm,
It really dishonors the persona, your persona.
mhm.
So it's a whole of mental, psychosocial, um, you know, biological, complex, experience.
So those are the effects that they are bringing, because like we are talking about the effects, but yeah. So how can we as a society try to avoid such like incidences of um, abortion, whereby somebody just decide to go for abortion? What can we do as a society, or what can we do as an individual if we are in such like situation?
Well, let's take an example of me and you.
Hmm.
So I'm a parent, you're a parent. We have these kids we are raising. So at the age of 5, actually at the age of 3, when they start like knowing things, they start being conscious.
Hmm.
You start naming body parts lightly too. Then they get to 5. You just talk about the body parts and consent, who should touch you, who should not touch you, what is a bad touch, what is a good touch. They get to 7, you start talking sex, the functions of your body parts. What is this one able to do? What is this one able to do? Then they get to 10. This is actually, now you get into the psychosocial, how they feel, their biology, chemicals, hormones in their body. You're talking puberty, adolescence. So just go into the emotional. You'd be attracted. This is what you preempt them, what to expect. You'd be attracted to a person of the opposite sex. You might start wanting to do this. As a boy, you start experiencing erection. Of course, at that time already they're experiencing erection every morning. What does that mean? And they have wet. It's called what? They have wet dreams.
Hmm.
So that is actually sperm coming out. And so what does that do? And you go into the whole baby making process. If you do this, this is what you expect. If you do this, and then you start talking to them about standing up for themselves, speaking up, being assertive, how to relate with a person of the opposite sex, what are the boundaries that are there. By the time they're 13, they're sharp. So after that, life is life.
Mhm.
Just because you fill them up with the right information at the right time does not mean that they will comply. Does
Mhm.
not mean that is what they're going to do. So life is life. Sometimes they end up doing the opposite of what you're saying, because kids also, as they grow, they get into rebellion. It's just a biological thing, a part of growing up and experiencing, discovering independence. They
Mhm.
just rebel. So that which you tell them to do is what they don't do. So they end up getting pregnant as a girl. You tell them, you know what, I did my best. You spread your bed. You're going to have to lay on it. So you are
Mhm.
going to raise a baby here. What that means is, as I'd shown you, as I'd shared with you, is that what normally happens is people take maternity leave. You have to get out of the learning
School.
institution. You
Mhm.
have to raise this baby. You have to give yourself time. Then you bounce back. You're going to delay. You're going to go after everybody else, and you're going to feel like this. You're going to have to deal with stigma, dealing with breast milk in class, other, students laughing at you. That is something you're going to have to deal with. And remember, you had told them this early. So it's
Mhm.
not like mama, you didn't tell me, or daddy, you didn't tell me. They already know. So they're dealing with something they are conscious of. And then the boys also tell them, what
Mhm.
is your role as a protector of sisters?
Mhm.
These are your sisters. Look at them as your sisters, as your friends. Don't look at them as things to be used. These are
Mhm.
not possessions. These are human beings. These are your friends, your sisters. One day in the future, you would want to marry one of them. If you spoil their future today, would you be proud to marry them in the future? So you just talk to them as boys and instill in them a sense of responsibility as a boy, as a male. Not just leaving them to wander around. Then you only talk to them about drug abuse. No.
Yeah. That, what about, because like even like our leaders too, I think like this is something that the leaders should also take part in, because like it's something that we are fighting. But you'll find
Yeah.
like the leaders they tend not to talk about those things that are touching the government of the society, because
Mm,
they feel like they might not be
you would
very
push them to
relevant.
do.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what can we tell them? Because like it is something that should be fought, you know.
There's nothing you're telling them. You
Mm,
are changing how you're choosing them.
yeah.
We're not telling them anything. We are changing how you're choosing them. Who are we electing as a community?
Hmm.
Because these leaders are supposedly our representatives, in the county assembly, in the national assembly. So who are we electing to be our representative? Our representative simply means our leader, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who are you confident enough to lead you? And when they're leading you, they're also leading your children.
Hmm.
So we need to start tasking ourselves to be able to elect people who are sober and sound, people whose track record we have, people who have a sober blueprint, and that is who we install as our leaders, so that when they go into those policy making positions, they're
Hmm.
able to pass policies that are actually relatable, policies
Hmm.
that actually mean good, policies that are actually towards um, citizen service, not just self service. you know
Hmm.
so listen, if you take an idiot into a
Hmm.
policy making position, you cannot stress them with thinking right. You're stressing them, they will never think right. They're idiots. You're wasting your time. They are not
Mm.
interested even in this position. They're just here because of probably protecting their illegal hustle. They're
Mm.
here to do the
Yeah.
network in business. So it is,
Mm.
but it's not their fault when they're just indifferent. That is exactly who they are. So
Mm.
that you don't stress them, just choose the right person. And
Yeah.
then, political leaders are not the only leaders we have.
Yep.
We even have teachers in schools. They're role models.
Hmm.
Parents, you need to start looking at yourselves as leaders. Don't be saying, me, I can drink, me, I can just be responsible, me, I can just be reckless. Me, I'm not my child's role model. My child's role model is the teacher. My child's
Hmm.
role model is the pastor. You are your first child's role model.
Hmm.
Yes. So we need to start also questioning that have we been in the best shape or form before we task our political leaders to be in the best shape or form. So all of us here have a role to play.
Because like you find when such like conversation comes, you know what, let me you find like what usually happens in our country that sometimes amazes me with the leaders
Yeah.
will only tackle the issue when it's now a disaster. When we find, like, let's say there is a rape case that has taken, like, there are 10 women that were raped at the same time. That is when
Yeah,
you will come and find, like, the leaders are now coming in and they are talking about it. But before it happens, no one talks about it, and it tells you the kind of society where we have, that we usually don't try to be proactive. Yeah,
right,
we are
right,
not proactive. Think ahead of time and say, like,
right.
think, okay, if this one happens, what should we do? Or for us to avoid this, what should we put in place, so that if you do this, actually these are the repercussions that you're going to get. But that is what is not with us. We usually wait until it's happened. Then is now
To
when we want
react.
to react and say that we want to
Yes.
pass the legislation. So I don't think
Mhm.
it is helping our society. So, as you said earlier, the leaders that we choose, or the leaders that we elect, will determine the kind of society we have. And maybe our last, before we wind up, we talk about the society, our cultural and societal norms. Yeah,
Mhm.
they also can play a part. At what point should we say that now let's go with what our culture wants, and forget about like, say the culture says like this? At what point should we do that, or should we just ignore it?
As long as it's retrogressive and
Mhm,
drawing us back, it's not
mhm,
helping us, it's not adding value, it's actually risking probably our lives or our mental health or our mental stability or our peace, then
mhm,
let's discard it. But
mhm,
if it's enriching us as a people, adding value, helping us to stay more healthy, more sane, more happy,
mhm,
more positive, and we generally agree, then let's take it up. There's aspects like female genital mutilation does not
yeah,
serve us. Discard. There
mhm,
are aspects like male circumcision serves us. Let's carry that on. So as long as it's retrogressive, it does not serve us. Discard.
mhm.
That for me is how I look at culture and what to take up or what to discard.
Some culture will say, like, they will say, okay, that is not part of our culture and it doesn't serve us. So it can be individual decision, or
Yeah,
mm,
yeah, again, it varies from a person to another. There are people
mm,
who look at female genital mutilation. I mean, I have worked in Mount Elgon.
mhm,
That's probably my first work experience working
mm,
around anti-FGM campaign.
mm,
And those women, not men, you'd be
mm,
surprised. It is actually the women, I don't know about now, but back then, it is
mhm,
actually the women in Cheptais, the women in Mount Elgon community that actually demand for their girls to get the cut
mhm,
because they have been so conditioned and socialized in their
mhm,
head that this is what makes you a complete woman. This is your rite of passage as a woman, that they feel guilty if their daughters are not circumcised because they feel like, oh my god, you will be stigmatized. They do not have that mental transformation to view life in a more progressive way. So for us, we can look at FGM and say it's a bad thing, but for them, they're like, that's a good thing. So again, it varies from an individual to another, a community to another,
mhm.
but we try our best, those of us who've seen the light,
Yeah.
because there are also areas where we have not seen the light, especially as a low community. We still don't embrace male circumcision.
Yes.
That's a problem. So the areas where we have seen the light, the areas where we haven't, so we try to do our best to sharpen each other. We are here on earth to sharpen each other. So
Yeah.
this community might be ahead with this
Okay.
community might be ahead with this.
Okay, my sister, thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking your time to be with me on this show. Maybe your last remarks to our viewers.
My last remarks
Mm.
are that we need to bring me again because I don't feel like we have completely
Yeah, I can, I
explored.
can, I can organize part two.
It's okay. It's okay. But generally, I am happy that we were able to, have this conversation, and
Mm,
especially on a digital platform where
mm,
now is able to really spread. And my hope is that it's able to help us to see differently and think differently, and have this conversation like a household conversation. So people who watch this in their cars can think about this. People who watch this in their homes can actually start conversations with, their children. Also young people who are watching this can actually see the concerns that we are raising. So I
mhm.
know that this is a good step. We are probably not the first ones to start this conversation, but the fact that we are on the right track trying to promote the right thing is a good thing. And yeah, I hope the audience will help us to carry this campaign forward.
And I will always try to bring you on the show, especially when it comes to those that are touching on our society and the community. There's so much to be discussed. I also need to discuss with you about the role of the fatherhood. Is something that is there. The role,
Very,
the male child, is something that people do not try to discuss about. We've so much geared towards the girl
women.
child and leaving the male child. And remember, the male child is going to be a father at some point, is going to be a husband. So if we don't kind of bring the male child up, who is going
Yeah.
to marry the
Us
girl
who are
child?
empowered citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So and that one kind of like bring imbalance
Yeah.
in the society. Then another thing also with the male child, sometimes they don't want to come out and share the challenges that they are going through because they feel, you share that with me in our Luo or Nage. If a male cries, they will tell you, how, why are you crying? Angome iyo kadhako bwana. How should Dako cry? So why are you crying like a woman? Those are the
Yeah.
things that we were told when we were growing up. So like as a
Yeah.
man, sometimes there's something that you feel like crying, but you cannot do it because you will see like you are crying like a woman. So we
Yeah.
we need also to discuss on that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So I will organize and maybe we talk about that. And for our viewers, thank you so much. And I know next time I will bring Winnie again so that we can have a conversation of the same. And let me see you tomorrow when we'll be having another guest talking on a different issue. This is a place whereby we discuss different issues affecting our country and our society. Thank you so much, my sister Winnie, and may God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay.